With Rashee Rice injured and out for who knows how long, the Chiefs are expected to be on the lookout for a new wide receiver before the trade deadline. In this video, I'll discuss some popular player options that fans are excited about but might not be realistic, as well as some more achievable targets. We'll also talk about Clyde Edwards-Helaire possibly returning soon, and even Kareem Hunt potentially dealing with an injury. Before we dive into the wide receiver situation, let's first touch on some news that came out yesterday involving player suspensions. The NFL announced that Browns defensive tackle Mike Hall Jr. and Bills pass rusher Von Miller have both been suspended. Mike Hall Jr. was suspended for 5 games, while Von Miller received a 4-game suspension. Both suspensions are related to accusations of domestic violence. Hall Jr. was arrested on a domestic violence charge in August, but later pled no contest to a reduced misdemeanor disorderly conduct charge on September 19th. He has already served 4 games of his suspension while on the commissioner's exempt list. Von Miller, on the other hand, was arrested back in November 2023 for an alleged domestic violence incident, but no charges were filed. Bills fans are upset that Von Miller got suspended while Rashee Rice hasn't yet faced the same fate, despite being in the middle of a criminal trial. Some fans believe Rice should be suspended immediately, but the NFL has stated that they're waiting for the legal process to finish before taking action. It's almost as if critical thinking has vanished. Rice's suspension will happen once the trial is over, and anyone who's following the case closely knows this. Now, back to Rashee Rice. The big question in Chiefs Kingdom is, what will the Chiefs do with their wide receiver lineup? With Rice and Hollywood Brown both out due to injuries, the team is in a tricky spot. Hollywood Brown could potentially return in December or January for the playoffs, but Rice's timeline is much less certain. He's undergoing further testing, and we should have an update later this week or early next week. Reportedly, there's still too much swelling in his knee to make a definitive diagnosis, but the fact that an ACL tear hasn't been confirmed yet could be a positive sign. It might mean Rice has a partial tear or a different ligament injury, like the PCL or MCL. Once the swelling goes down, we'll know more. Despite the uncertainty, Rice took to Instagram today to say that he gets his strength from God, which suggests he's in good spirits. Patrick Mahomes also commented on the situation, saying there's some hope that both Rice and Hollywood Brown could return eventually, but for now, the Chiefs are actively considering their trade options before the November 5th deadline. Now, let's discussing wide receiver trades. First up, there's been a lot of buzz about Davante Adams. While a trade for Adams is probably one of the least likely scenarios, it's still fun to think about. It's been reported that Adams wants out, and some, like Robert Griffin III, are saying the Chiefs should go after him. Let's play out a hypothetical scenario where the Raiders are willing to trade within the division to the Chiefs, which they most likely won't. The Raiders would probably want a second-round pick or more, and Adams would cost around $13 million. I'm not sure the Chiefs would want to give up multiple picks for him, but it's a situation worth keeping an eye on as we approach the trade deadline. Getting Davante Adams would probably only be for half a season's worth of production. Currently, the Chiefs only have $4.7 million in cap space. However, they could restructure contracts for players like Jawan Taylor, Patrick Mahomes, and Travis Kelce to free up over $16.5 million in cap space, according to Chris Clark of Chiefs Corner. So, while trading for Adams is theoretically possible and would be amazing for the Chiefs' offense, it's still highly unlikely. Adams is 32 years old but definitely still has some juice left. However, many around the league, including Deanna Rini of The Athletic, believe that the Jets are the team most likely to pull off this trade. The Jets already have about $17 million in available cap space, and Adams has a strong connection with Aaron Rodgers, their quarterback. So it's probably the Jets who will get Adams, not the Chiefs. Now, what about Tyreek Hill? He recently told the media he wants to stay in Miami, but the Dolphins aren't winning, while the Chiefs are stacking up Super Bowl rings. Miami is currently struggling with their offense, averaging only 11 points per game, according to Jason from Over the Cap. In theory, a team could trade for Tyreek Hill for just $1.7 million, which is much more affordable than Davante Adams. However, for this to happen, the Dolphins would have to absorb $28 million in dead money for 2025. If there's any chance that Tua Tagovailoa returns from the injured reserve this season, it's unlikely Miami will want to trade away Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle. It's fun to imagine a Tyreek Hill return, and he'd be a great fit for the Chiefs' offense, but I don't see this happening anytime soon. Another potential option is DeAndre Hopkins. Hopkins is on the last year of his deal, and the Titans aren't performing well with Will Levis at quarterback. Trading for Hopkins would cost the Chiefs around $7.2 million right now, but by the trade deadline, that number could drop closer to $5 million. Hopkins would cost less in terms of trade capital compared to Tyreek or Davante, but still more than some other options. This is why the Chiefs might hesitate to give up valuable draft picks, especially since they're already paying a lot for stars like Patrick Mahomes, Joe Thuney, and Chris Jones. The Chiefs have done a great job maintaining a balance between experienced players and rookie contracts, so giving up multiple picks might not be ideal. That being said, I still see Hopkins as a more realistic option than Tyreek or Adams. But instead of focusing on these high-cost players, let's explore more practical options for the Chiefs. Familiar faces like Demarcus Robinson or Byron Pringle could be worth considering. Demarcus Robinson is currently with the Rams, but since LA is struggling and dealing with injuries in their receiver room, he could be a trade target. Robinson played with the Chiefs from 2017 to 2021 and knows the system well, making him a valuable option to bring back. Byron Pringle is a free agent at the moment. Although he had limited production with the Bears and Commanders over the last 2 seasons, he's still a potential practice squad addition, at least initially. Another player to consider is Marquez Valdes-Scantling. He's with the Buffalo Bills right now, so a trade might not be likely, but he's familiar with the Chiefs' system and can play multiple wide receiver positions. Bringing him back would be an easy transition, and he would quickly get acclimated to the offense. There's also Amari Cooper from the Cleveland Browns. Cooper would cost a late-round pick and would be affordable within the Chiefs' financial means, somewhere between $700,000 to $1 million. He had over 1,200 receiving yards last season, and while he's 30 years old and struggling a bit with the Browns, he's still got plenty left in the tank. I see him as a very realistic option. Another name being mentioned is Deontay Johnson, who has been playing well with the Panthers. I'm not sure if Carolina would be willing to trade one of their most productive receivers, especially with Adam Thielen currently on injured reserve with a hamstring issue. However, it wouldn't hurt for Brett Veach to make a call and see if they're open to a trade. Financially, these trades might seem a bit tight, but the Chiefs can make it happen, especially if they believe one of these players can contribute to another championship run. One intriguing option for the Chiefs could be Jalen Hyatt of the New York Giants. Hyatt is still on his rookie deal after being drafted in the 3rd round by New York in the 2023 NFL Draft. This season, he's had only 3 targets and hasn't caught any of them, showing very little production so far. Last season, however, he had 23 receptions for 373 yards, more than Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, or Mecole Hardman managed with the Chiefs in 2023. Hyatt is a smaller receiver, standing at 6 feet tall and weighing 176 pounds, but he's a field stretcher with great speed. He has an impressive vertical and broad jump, runs a 4.41-second 40-yard dash, and has above-average 10 and 20-yard splits. Trading for Hyatt would cost the Chiefs very little in draft compensation, and he's under contract until 2026. State of the Chiefs' wide receiver room: Justin Watson in the last year of his deal, Mecole Hardman, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Hollywood Brown all on 1-year contracts, and Sky Moore's uncertain future. It might be worth exploring the option of acquiring a young, high-upside player like Hyatt, who they could keep around for a few years. One thing Hyatt would bring is another player who can stretch the field, potentially freeing up Xavier Worthy to run more routes over the middle. If Juju Smith-Schuster can step up and take on the role that Rashee Rice filled, it would help offset the loss of Travis Kelce, similar to what Juju did in 2022. This is an intriguing option for the Chiefs as it would add a cheap, speedy player with high potential. Of course, there are many potential trade options out there as we approach the deadline, especially with teams looking to sell as they continue to lose. The Chiefs will likely be linked to several receivers, and Brett Veach is definitely making phone calls. According to Harold C. of Fox 4, after Sky Moore dropped that critical pass on 3rd and 2 last week, a loud slam was heard nearby, which reportedly came from Brett Veach himself. This shows the frustration and urgency within the organization to address the wide receiver situation. Currently, after Worthy, Juju, and Justin Watson, the depth in the Chiefs' receiver room is questionable. Adding another playmaker could be crucial for the rest of the season. In-house options like Justin Watson are reliable targets for Mahomes at times, but players like Mecole Hardman have seen limited offensive usage and have mostly been relegated to special teams. Even though Hardman's speed and versatility could be utilized on sweeps or deep routes, the Chiefs haven't been using him that way. Meanwhile, Skyway Moore has been getting more offensive snaps but hasn't been able to make the most of them. At this point, it might be worth giving the three practice squad guys, Justin Ross, Nico Remigio, or Montrell Washington, more opportunities on offense while figuring out a potential trade or free agent signing. Any trade will take time for the new player to learn the offense, and with Rashee Rice likely to be placed on injured reserve for at least 4 weeks, a roster spot will open up. Even if Rice is out for the entire season, it still creates an opportunity to add another player to the active roster. Before we wrap up, there's also news regarding the running back room. The Chiefs have opened up the 21-day window for Clyde Edwards-Helaire to return from the non-football injury list. According to several sources, he has a strong chance of coming back and playing soon. In addition, Kareem Hunt, who recently returned to the team, might be dealing with an injury himself after his performance in Week 4 against the Chargers. The Chiefs will release their first injury report tomorrow, so keep an eye out for updates on Hunt's status. If Hunt is indeed injured, it would be a significant blow, making Edwards-Helaire's return even more critical. For now, the Chiefs don't need to make a corresponding roster move because they currently have 52 players out of a possible 53 on the active roster. This means they have room to add someone new without making other adjustments. Let me know your thoughts on the wide receiver situation, potential trades, and the concerns in the running back room.